When thinking about the use of Lightroom to manage a large collection of images, it seems there's a tendency to think of all the big topics and complicated possibilities that include rating, updating metadata, filtering, and other issues. As such, you might be tempted to dismiss the notion of a quick collection as being inappropriate for a professional workflow. I assure you that's not the case. I think of the quick collection as a way to identify a particular group of images I want to work with where I don't need a permanent collection. In this lesson, we'll take a look at the quick collection to see how it works and when you might put it to use. In this particular case, I need to find 5 of my favorite images captured in Lightroom because I have a client who would like to use one of those images for a greeting card. The collection of images I'll choose is simply for sharing with this client, so there's no need to keep these images as part of a permanent collection. At the moment, I have over 12,000 photos in my library, so it could be a bit of a challenge to sort through these. For starters, I need to look at just the images from Iceland. So on the left panel of the library module, I'll scroll down to the folders and choose my Iceland folder. This folder contains over 300 images, so I still need to filter this down a little bit further. Fortunately, I've already identified my overall favorites from this trip. Those have been marked with a red label. So I'll turn on the filter and set that to only the red labeled images so I can sort through these images and find the 5 favorites. This is where I can start to put the quick collection to use. To make my job a little bit easier here, I'm going to switch to the grid view so that I can look at all of these images on something of a virtual light table. I'm also going to hide all of the panels by pressing Shift-Tab so that I have more space available for the images. And finally, I'll increase the thumbnail size so that I can see these images a little bit more clearly. Now I can scroll through my images to decide which ones I want to include in my quick collection. When I mouse over my images, you'll see that the clickable options are displayed temporarily. That includes the rotation buttons at the bottom corners and the quick collection icon in the top right corner of the thumbnail. To add an image to a quick collection, all I need to do is click that icon. When I do so, the icon will become permanent as part of the thumbnail for that image. This image has been added to my quick collection, but there's an important issue we need to keep in mind when it comes to the quick collection. There is only one quick collection, and anytime you add images to that quick collection, they will join any images that were already in the quick collection. So I really need to make sure that my quick collection is cleaned out before I start working too much with new images. So I'll display the left panel and scroll up to the top of the panel to find the quick collection. Sure enough, I can see that there's 11 images when I've only added just one. That means I still had images in the quick collection before I got started with this process. So I'll go to that quick collection and select all of the images in this quick selection by pressing Ctrl-A on Windows or Command-A on the Macintosh. Since I want to keep this Icelandic photo in the quick collection, I'll deselect it by holding the Control key on Windows or the Command key on Mac and clicking on that image. Now all of the images in the quick collection are selected with the exception of this image from Iceland. I can now click on the quick collection icon in the top right corner of any of the selected images, and all of those images will be removed from the quick collection. Now I can go back to my Iceland collection and continue working to find the images that I want to work with. Of course, I'll need to turn on the filter again so that I'm back to just the red labeled images. And naturally, I'll hide the left panel at this point so I can once again look at just the images. I'll then continue to review the images and decide which ones I think might be most appropriate for this client. Naturally, I have some personal favorites from the trip, so I'll certainly include those. Also include some that I think the client might prefer based on their own tendencies. Some of these images are more of snapshots, and so they're probably not going to get included, but the point is that I can go through all of the images and decide on which ones are going to be the best selection. At this point, I've actually selected more than the 5 images I had intended to share with the client. So I'll reveal the left panel and choose the quick collection so that I can see only those images. I can then continue to review the images and remove those that I think might not work as well for this particular purpose. While I love the shot of the church in the tundra, I think it's a little more detailed than they're looking for, so I'll remove that from the quick collection and notice that it immediately disappears since I'm looking at the images in the quick collection. I think the broad landscape also won't really work for their purpose, so I'll remove that image as well. At this point, I'm down to the 5 images I want to share with the client, so I can bring back my panels And I can use this quick collection as the basis of a contact sheet print, for example. I might then output that contact sheet as a JPEG image and email it to the customer. I could also simply export these images as smaller JPEGs and then send those via email. It's worth noting, by the way, that besides using the quick collection icon, as with all collections, we can also drag images into the collection. So for example, I'm going to go back to my Iceland folder, and then I'll choose another image that I'd like to include in this quick collection. I'll once again filter for the red labels just to make the task a little bit easier. In this case, this image of the fall foliage against the rocks is not included in the quick collection, as you can see by the fact that the quick collection icon is not shown in the top right corner of the image. If I mouse over, I can see the faded button, but when the mouse is not over the image, there's no icon there. So this image is definitely not in the quick collection. I can then scroll up so that I can see the quick collection on the left pane and simply drag and drop this image directly onto the quick collection. Of course, that means at this point I have 6 images in my quick collection, so I'll need to make a decision about which I want to remove if in fact I want to limit myself to only 5 images for this particular project. As much as I love the shot of the raindrops on the window, I don't think that's actually going to work, so I'll remove that image from the quick collection, and now I'm ready to go. The quick collection is far more useful than you might expect at first glance. I use it regularly when I need to process images for a particular project that is transitory, or as a temporary holding place for images I'm working with in a somewhat complex process. While the more sophisticated image management features in Lightroom are certainly worth exploring, the quick collection feature is quite valuable in a wide variety of image management situations.